Hello, you're watching TelecomTV Spotlight on 5G series. I'm Guy Daniels, Director of Content. Advances in the radio access network are opening up new possibilities for operators, leading to network efficiencies and new applications and services. They also present challenges when deploying into extensive existing legacy architectures. For the CSP perspective on the 5G RAN, I'm joined today by Neil McRae, Managing Director of Architecture and Technology Strategy and Chief Architect for BT. Hello Neil, very good to see you again. Now, it's the week of MWC and the spotlight is well and truly on 5G. There are many questions about 5G and its role in the enablement and provision of new services. So let me start by asking you about the current state of the 5G RAN. As an operator, are you happy with its development? Are the new 3GPP specified products doing what you need them to do?
Yes and no, Guy. I mean, look, there's been phenomenal progress and innovation and technology and deployment. That's been almost as fast, or in some places faster than previous generations. But I want to see 5G and the network get more and more embedded within our lives. And I think we've still got a lot of work to do in enabling that in a robust, scalable, cost-effective and reliable way. And you can see a lot of that's on the verge of coming, but it's not quite here yet. So yes, some great stuff, especially through the pandemic. Obviously, that's added a few extra challenges for us all. But I think 5G and the network is so much more capable of making a difference in our lives. I want to see us really take that next step into becoming more dependent upon the network. That's my job, is to make our customers become more and more excited and dependent on the network. And I think there's still quite a lot to do. So yes, it's okay, but no, I don't want to be complacent and say we've got enough, because we definitely don't.
Well, one of the innovations that gets a lot of attention at the moment is Open RAN. The analysts out there cite various degrees of eventual market penetration, and there's quite a range proposed. Now, BT recently announced an Open RAN trial. So what's your current take on what Open RAN can do?
Yeah, look, I mean, let's just remember, Open RAN is an interface standard. It's effectively the equivalent of an HDMI cable from your PlayStation to your TV. Let's not forget that. I think we kind of confuse what this really is versus what we're actually trying to achieve from it. I think Open RAN has made some great steps in creating new capabilities that will allow us to innovate. So, and I'm talking about the RIC. Where, as you noted a few weeks ago, we turned on one live in Hull, and it's proving to be fantastic and giving us insight and ability to do things with the network that have been much harder to do and much more manual. So we're really excited about the RIC, and I've stated that, for some time. Where I think we've still got a lot of work to do is really translating the other benefits that we often talk about in Open RAN. Is it really bringing a new era of, not being locked in? And as you know, I'm not a great believer in vendor lock-in. I think you've always got choices if you're smart and innovative. But Open RAN's not quite there. And my fear is like other technologies in the past, I always look at this curve of complexity versus deployability. And I'm very nervous that Open RAN is headed towards the complexity side, where operators just will struggle to be able to use it and make a success of it. And we see various, what I call flavors of Open RAN coming out. You've got Rakuten and Symphony. You've got other organizations coming together with people like Capgemini leading some of the integration. And we see a definite set of almost flavors or ecosystems, 3 or 4, maybe even 5 of them, of these ecosystems that are O-RAN, but they're actually a solution that you literally have to buy and deploy as that solution, which, to be honest, sounds very similar to what I've already got. So are we really going to see an era of true interoperability and swappability and diversification? I don't see it, frankly, and I certainly don't see it from the underlying technology and semiconductors and code that's coming out, because none of that's open. You may be using an Open RAN interface, but none of the underlying other technologies are truly open. And if we really want to make an open network, then I think we've got to do more there. And I've worked with open source software since 1987, and to say that this is as open as, say, Linux or some of the other softwares solutions out there, I think would be challenging to say. And you've got lots of components that you have to bring together and test and do interop with, and I think we're in danger of maybe making this too hard, and ultimately still being reliant upon 4 or 5 key underlying component manufacturers that haven't really moved the dial on diversity, won't have moved the dial on cost, and may have increased the dial on complexity. And I think we need to be cautious about that. And then ultimately performance, this is the thing where I'm probably most excited about Open RAN. We've seen the performance increase massively over the last 18 months. There's still a lot more to do, still a lot to do in MIMO and massive MIMO, to really get the kind of, the kind of macro deployable equipment that you could run a kind of a new platform on. Today, Open RAN, most of the deployments of Open RAN that I see tend to be augmenting existing networks as opposed to greenfield. Yeah, there's a couple of greenfields, and it's great when you don't have any legacy. It's really easy to roll out and save money. If you're rolling out a new network and it's brand new and you're not saving money, then you're doing something wrong. But from my perspective, we've got to really keep a close eye on the complexity versus performance curve, and make sure that we bank the opportunity of Open RAN, which is, my key goal, to make the network more reliable, to make it more effective, and to increase our customers' dependence upon it. And that's what I think we've got still a lot of work to do on.
Thanks, Neil. As you say, there's still a lot of work to do there. We've got to keep our eye on the end goal here. Now, if I can take you back several years, we experienced another burst of excitement around small cells. Have they lived up to expectations? Because there doesn't appear to be a lot of commercial traction here.
Yes and no. I think, building networks is hard, Guy. I think people forget how hard it is and don't realize it. But if you're watching this and you've never been out with a team about, actually putting stuff in the ground or on a tower or in an office or in a shopping center or a stadium, I'd really encourage you to, phone your team and spend a day with them. Because what we find is that even, small cells and deployments can be as difficult as actually building macro, and actually sometimes more difficult. We're deploying lots of small cells here in the UK and in the EE and BT network, where we're using them for capacity augmentation in some of our busiest locations. So South Bank in London, for example, where because of the geography, we've got the River Thames and we've got some other challenges around buildings and the environment, that we're deploying small cells out there to augment. And I think this is where I think truly the age of small cells is coming with us, because we're starting to see limitations on spectrum, particularly low band and mid band. That means that we've got to regenerate spectrum more and more than we've ever done before, and I think doing that for the macro is just not feasible. We've also got, as I say, the more, networkification of the world and people becoming more dependent upon the network. That means that we've got to take the network everywhere. We've got to take it to where people can use it and rely upon it, and small cells into in-building coverage, into locations like train stations and transportation hubs. Small cells are a big part of the answer, and actually this is where we believe Open RAN can play a massive part in making that deployment much easier and much more scalable than it's ever been, because I can use the RIC to help manage interference, to help manage coverage in places where, if you want to go into Waterloo train station and start changing small cells, there's a massive kind of operational process to go through around health and safety and ensuring that there's no one there and no one gets hurt, and quite rightly so. But if you could then use a RIC to kind of adjust and tweak the coverage and the radio parameters, then that's a huge advantage. And I think the kind of controller-based small cell solutions are going to really flourish over the next 12 to 18 months. And, we have a set of trials running right now on that, trying to, pick the right solution for our customers' needs. So I think we were over-ambitious about small cells, particularly in the 4G space, where, we hadn't quite got to the demand of bandwidth and coverage that we now need in 5G. But, I think small cells are definitely part of the future. As I say, we're rolling them out in some locations already. I think we'll see more of it with neutral hosts as well, coming up and enabling that. And also, as we start to go more rural, and we continue to push on that envelope, small cells have got a part to play in perhaps in villages and certain town setups where, a macro isn't possible. And, we plan to keep pushing our coverage. We're the only carrier in the UK to grow coverage last year. We grew by 1%, which doesn't sound a lot, but it's massive when you look at the size of the UK and what you need to do to hit 1% growth in coverage. Small cells will be a big part of filling those coverage holes and gaps for sure.
Well, that link between small cells and the RIC is absolutely fascinating. Now, you also mentioned neutral hosts there. What about the role of neutral hosts? Can they play a part in an operator's overall RAN strategy?
I think it's essential. We've built several neutral hosts over the past couple of years. One at Alderney Park that's proving to be hugely successful, and the customers of all of the networks in the UK are loving it. And we've got to figure out how we work better at doing that and how we plan and align. There's no point if someone builds a neutral host if other operators are not then able to leverage it because it wasn't in their plan. So I think there's work to do on how do we get better at aligning where we're building these and getting the most out of them. But I think they're essential, and I think we'll see more of them as time progresses. And we're really well placed to be a really powerful and important neutral host provider, because we've got all the assets from the fixed network, and we can converge them to bring a really great service for our own customers, but also for other operators' customers too, and then potentially leverage these solutions for private networks too, where again, building multiple chains of infrastructure just isn't cost effective. So can we use neutral host as part of a private network solution? I think on the radio side, I think the answer to that has got to be yes.
A final question, Neil. There's a growing awareness in the industry around energy consumption of the RAN. And when we look at the densification associated with 5G, the need to improve energy efficiency, is there anything an operator can do now with its installed RAN base, or do we have to wait on upgrade and replacement cycles?
Yeah, we need to do something now. There's no choice, is how I would put it. And waiting for another set of hardware isn't an option. So the great news is all the vendors are open to that and they're working with us. But we've been trialing, turning off frequency bands at night and turning other things off when we don't need them. And there's some really rudimentary stuff you can do, which is to turn them off manually. And it's not ideal, but it works. But we want to get much more of a control plane on that, so that it's more automated and consistent, and we can be predictable about it. But with the way energy prices are going for operators, we don't have a choice on this. And of course, we've all got to head towards carbon, zero carbon, and this is a key part of that process. I think over time, we'll get better and better at this. And again, this is where the RIC also presents us with some opportunities as well for turning capabilities on and off only when we need them, as opposed to having them on all the time. But it's not just the RAN network we need to think about. We need to think about the whole supply chain, everything from the content that's coming out from the hyperscalers or from Amazon or someone like that to the handset, and even how we charge handsets. We've got to keep pushing the envelope to get more and more efficiency on every step of that. And I think the industry is doing a phenomenal job of doing that. I mean, and in BT, we've been working on power efficiency and carbon zero since the 90s, and we're in really great shape as in terms of the things that we've done. But there's much more to do. Electrification of the fleets that manage the RAN, the engineering teams, we're really pushing on that agenda as well. But in the radio, there's some simple steps we can take now. The other thing we need to do is turn off the old stuff. So, we're going to start turning off 3G soon. And we're looking at how do we turn off 2G. That will help for sure. And then as we progress over the next few years, do we start thinking about what in the 4G radio do we start to turn off, or move to 5G frequencies where we've got better control and better throughput and ultimately more power efficiency per hertz, per gigabit of bandwidth transferred. So we look at all of those things, and increasingly, power efficiency is a defining it's a defining decision in the RFIs and RFPs that we run. But as I said, I think all vendors and pretty much everyone in our industry is really open to the challenge of reducing energy and heading towards 0% carbon and being efficient about the use of energy.
Neil, fascinating discussion as always. Thanks very much for joining us today and sharing your views. Now, if you're watching this on day 2 of our Spotlight on 5G series, then please stay with us and take a look at our Strategy Outlook panel discussion on the 5G RAN. On Monday, we looked at the 5G core. Tomorrow, we'll focus on edge and private 5G. And on Thursday, we will deep dive into the 5G cloud. Plus, we have lots more related content, including the latest news from MWC in the Daily Slice programme, when I'll be joined from Barcelona by my colleague Ray Lemaitre. Next week, we'll see the return of the After Show, our live Q&A programmes, so don't forget to send us your questions on the 5G RAN, and we'll try and answer them during the show. These start on Monday, the 7th of March, and there's a Q&A form right here on the website. For now, though, thanks for watching and goodbye.